Hello everyone, many thanks for joining this webinar. I'm Warren Butler, Marketing Director at Preact, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Simon Shaw, who will be leading this presentation to demonstrate the sales management capabilities of Microsoft Dynamics 365. If you're new to Dynamics, or if you're already using the application and are interested in seeing an overview of the latest version of the sales module, we hope you find this a useful tour. A brief bit of background about Preact before we get started. We are a CRM partner helping small and mid-sized businesses and enterprise teams implement and support Dynamics 365 across customer engagement apps and solutions on the Microsoft Power Platform. Trading since 1993, today we support around 8,000 Dynamics users across a variety of industry sectors. We're one of just 60 partners worldwide included in the prestigious Inner Circle for Dynamics, which puts Preact into the top 1% of Microsoft's partners. If you are considering implementing Dynamics 365, or if you're looking to do more with the product, please do get in touch and we'll be delighted to discuss your plans and offer advice. When we speak to business leaders and sales teams who are considering a new CRM solution, there's often a frequent set of challenges that they're looking to address. These include a need to implement smarter processes that will help sales teams win faster. Also, being able to unify sales and relationship data so that it's available in one place wherever people work. And then using this complete view, not just to save time and increase productivity, but also uncover new insights and make more informed decisions. Microsoft Dynamics 365 is a collection of connected business apps that are built on a common data platform and work alongside Office 365 and other cloud services. In this presentation, we'll be demonstrating how its sales module helps teams of all sizes address these challenges and increase customer engagement. So the main points that we'll cover today include an overview of the Dynamics unified interface and then demonstrating examples of the sales insights which teams are able to gain through native Dynamics 365 dashboards as well as embedded Power BI analytics. We'll then focus on lead management to track leads and qualify these through guided process flows on both a desktop and using Dynamics mobile app. Within this, we'll share examples of how these processes reflect unique business rules and methodology and how embedded intelligence proactively shares insights and highlights recommended actions. Finally, we'll demonstrate how to build quotes in Dynamics and convert opportunities, and we'll also demonstrate an example of how this process can be enhanced using an embedded Power App. But we'll begin by taking a look at how Dynamics works with Outlook, enabling sales users to easily track emails on the go. So I'm going to hand over to Simon for the main demonstration. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Warren. So just before we start the webinar, I'd just like to say thank you for joining us. Today I'll be doing a demonstration of Dynamics 365 for sales. You'll notice that I'm doing this on the brand new unified interface with the latest version 9.1 update, which leaves the side panel on the left permanently popped out. So the first area I really want to talk about is leads. So we all get leads from many different methods. And we can enter these into the system in several different ways. We can do this using the usual create forms. So we can create a lead from the lead tables. We can use the quick create forms to create leads. And we can also do this using the Dynamics app for Outlook. So that's really where I want to start this. So if I go into my Outlook, you can see I'm doing this on the Outlook web app, but we can also do this on the hard client. Once you've got your users to install the application, it's something you can be pushed out from the main area by any admin users. You'll notice that we get this little D button on our emails. So I've got an inquiry here from someone looking to purchase potentially some of our product. So all we've got to do is click the little Dynamics button. This will then authenticate in. and you'll notice that the interface looks very, very like that of the main Dynamics, and hence this is using the unified interface, which is seamlessly connects across all devices. So what this has gone away and done, this is checked against the email address, and checked this in the system to see if there's already an account or a user with that email address. You'll notice that it hasn't found anyone. So there's two ways we can enter this. We can create this as a contact or a lead. So a contact would be against an account that we're already dealing with, and this is just a new person, so we'd just create that as a contact. Whereas this is a brand new inquiry from someone we don't know, so we're going to go in and create them as a lead. Now, this is essentially using the quick create form, which we predefined. So I've got a few fields that I've made mandatory here. If you notice that it's already pulled across some information from the email, so it's already populated the name, first name and last name, and I notice there isn't a company name on here. So this isn't a mandatory field, don't have to fill this in. So now we've entered this bit of information and we save this, this is automatically going to create that lead record in the system and then track this email against that lead. So leads, in a sense, are an area of isolation. So someone who is a lead in your system is essentially quarantined from the rest of the database. So you can keep in here all your sort of prospective customers, but they won't transition to be a contact and an account until you've sort of qualified them through your sales process. So what's quite cool here, I've entered a phone number, and if I have the integration set up, I can click this. This will automatically try and open Skype for Business, which is my default calling app. And if you notice also, now it's already gone through to the quick create form for a phone call. So I can call directly out of here, can click that and automatically dial whatever phone number I've put in. Subject, call with Simon. So the owner of this is me because I'm creating the record by default. Call to, which is the lead record. And call from, again, this will default to me, but I could just change this to someone else. Set duration, and you can also use this to convert into tasks as well, so by adding a due date. So I'm going to save and close that record. And again, that's automatically going to put that phone call against the record in CRM. So that's how we can enter the leads using the Dynamics app for Outlook. But it's quite common that sales teams might have users who aren't always at a laptop. They're typically in the fields, going to meetings, meeting with prospective clients, etc. So they need a way of tracking these emails on the go. So I'm going to switch over to my phone now and show you how this works. So this is using the Outlook app on my phone. I'm doing this on Android, but this also works for Windows phones and iOS. So here's my inquiry. Let's come in. You'll notice that if I tap the little ellipsis button here, I've got Dynamics 365. So this is doing exactly the same thing. This is using the Dynamics app for Outlook, and you'll notice the interface again is exactly the same as we would expect. It's all unified, all looks the same, all does the same thing. So I think that would be a really good starting point to talk a little bit more about the unified interface. So I'm just going to get rid of my phone and Outlook. So now let's go back to the main Dynamics. So for those of you who you've been using CRM for some time, you'll know that the interface has changed. So previously, the bulk of the buttons we can interact with were across the top, whereas now you'll notice that these buttons are on the left-hand side of the page on the vertical axis. So it's probably worth talking a little about what each of these icons mean. So dashboards is relating to an example that I've got here. So as I said, this one I'm using a Power BI report, but we have sort of various different dashboards. So this is under the dashboards area. Activities, the activities tab is activities I've got set against any records in CRM. So this is a list of my activities. This is essentially just a table talking about what activity types we've got, what the priority, what they're regarding, and we can have start and end dates for these. So if you've set up server-side sync, these activities will automatically be pushed down into your Outlook calendar as well. So accounts, for those of you who don't know, is relating to really your customers. So this would be, if you're especially in a B2B business, this would be your main clients, and then the contacts would be the people working for those clients. So leads, we've already done a little bit about. Leads is as I said, a holding area for people who you haven't yet transitioned to a customer and an account. Playbooks. This is a separate area which helps with the sales process. We have another session talking about playbooks in a little bit more detail. Opportunities. This is when we've qualified our lead through, and we have an open opportunity with a value for a potential purchase. Same as competitors. We have the idea of competitor management, so we can add in competitors, and if we know that a competitor is bidding on a certain deal, we can sort of add their record into there. And then you'll see we have further sort of information about the playbooks. Under the collateral section, we have quotes. So this is where we will build our quotations for work, be that based on just sort of price list items, but we can also do sort of ad hoc entry. And then the orders and invoices area. Typically, most people will go to sort of the order phase, and then we would look at potentially doing an integration with a finance package to automate the creation of invoices, or we can generate these out of the CRM. And you'll notice under here we also have products where we'll define any fixed products we have in the system, and then we have some sales literature, which again is designed to guide your sales team on the work they're doing. Under this we also have performance. So this is where we'll set up goals. So if you have specific metrics you'd like your team to meet, so they have a specific target this quarter, this month, this will be defined in here, and each individual user can go into the goals area and see how they are doing against their target. You'll notice we also have under service we have cases. So as of the most recent licensing update, you can now create cases using both Sales Enterprise and Sales Professional licensing. For those of you that remember or are still using the legacy interface, you'll notice that in terms of experience, there's a lot sort of less clutter. So what I'm talking about previously, before, people typically had quite large sitemaps where there's a lot of navigation to do. You had to sort of sift through multiple tabs to find other tabs, and the navigation could be a little bit clunky at times, and often some companies, you'd have users were seeing entities that they couldn't access or weren't really relevant to their role. So with the unified interface, we're really talking about sort of model-driven applications. So we can define on these applications what entities we're showing. So rather than have all these bits that some people don't need to see and therefore make it more difficult to navigate, we can trim this right down to really showing what are the key bits that user needs to see. So, for example, I'm doing this on the Sales Hub, which is one of the sort of pre-templated applications, but we can define these on a sort of a per company basis. We could have a different application for sales users in the field compared to sales users in the office. You can really sort of get into the detail and define these model-driven applications. So we'll come on to a little bit more about the unified interface as I sort of take you through the rest of the demonstration. But for now, I'd probably like to sort of start where I'm actually sat. I appreciate you can sort of see my screen. So these are some dashboards I've got. This is what I've defined as my homepage for when I first log into my Dynamics instance. But these can be defined on sort of a per user basis. So if you want to log in and see a specific set of tables or some specific dashboards, they can be defined as I said, on a per user basis. Typically, most people like the dashboards, so they want to see maybe call lists for the day or some sort of metrics like I've got presented in front of me. So for those of you who are quite savvy, you'll notice that this isn't a out-of-the-box Dynamics dashboard. This is actually a Power BI dashboard, which has been natively embedded. So for those of you who don't know, Power BI is Microsoft's business analytics sort of platform. It's really cool. You can do a lot with data, and you can get really sort of interactive with it. And you can pull in data from multiple data sources. So if you want to cross-reference So with your manufacturing software against some performance in sales, we can do that. We can get really sort of clever with the data. But it also gives us some really nice visuals, and we sort of define those in many different ways. These reports give some real insight to your users. So as you can imagine, sales teams, customer service teams, this allows all of them to sort of get a really good visualization of their data, which gives insight as to sort of how they're doing, how are they performing against their colleagues, how is the sales team doing this quarter, etc. It's really good because the data is live, so you've got constant insight as to sort of what's going on within the company. One of the good things about the Power BI reports as well is that you can interact with these. So if I want to go into this one in more detail, I can open up the report, and you'll notice as I hover over each bar, it actually tells me the specific values underneath that. So though it's very simplistic as an overall visual, we can really drill down, and I can see specific percentages relating to each bar. So if I now go back, see again, this will refresh the data and keep it very current. We also have the abilities to share these dashboards with other users, and we can also assign these dashboards to people. So I could define a dashboard for, say, our sales manager, if I was an admin, and then I can assign this report to them. We can also open this Power BI report directly in Power BI if we want to edit some queries as to what each individual graph is doing. Another really useful feature of the dashboards in Microsoft Dynamics is the fact that we can define multiple dashboards for each user. So we can have dashboards related to one specific user, or we can have company-wide dashboards. So notice I can see my multiple dashboards. These are custom ones that I've defined, but we also have some system ones out of the box, and we can define more system dashboards. So I can very quickly flick between different dashboards if I have multiple different reports that I need to see. Rather than having sort of one massive report, I can have various different ones, and obviously give them the relevant naming convention. So this is a dashboard that's actually one of the out-of-the-box dashboards with Microsoft Dynamics on the sales application. So this is just showing some social activity. So you'll notice it works in a fairly same way. If I hover over, I can see the values. This is just looking at pipelines. So in terms of all my opportunities and leads, this is what stage they're at. So this one's at the qualify stage. This is how much money I've got at the development stage, and this is how much I've got in the proposal stage. And you'll notice here we have some of the toast notifications from the relationship assistant. And again, we can have, I've got closed opportunities and open opportunities, and then I've also got my activity tables. So I can set the activities for my activities, my team's activities, etc. And this is all on one single dashboard. Where I want to pick up now is with leads. So earlier I showed you how to create a lead using the Outlook app for Dynamics, but now I'm going to use the standard sort of quick create form to create a lead. Populate some information. So imagine someone's just sort of phoned in. So let's go for Bob. Always works. So company name, and then an email address. And then if he's provided us with a phone number. So I'm going to save and close and create that record. So, and we can access that using the recent navigation button at the top. So I can jump straight into that lead form. And you'll notice that there's sort of a few different areas within the lead form. So essentially we have the way of defining these. So we can set out exactly what sort of information we want to capture on each form. We can define lots of different fields. We can have subgrids, maps, all sorts of bits of information presented to us. You can have multiple forms for each entity. So you could have multiple different lead forms depending on either type of inquiry, or B, it could be your role, specifically you want to see different information as to the different user. So we can define the forms and the security permissions around that. So there's a few fields that I have to fill out which are mandatory and some that are not. So in terms of this, we have a topic. So very still my business. We sell printers. So this would be a printer inquiry. Job title. Don't know the business phone, and what type of inquiry is it. So I have a simple sort of drop down menu here, so I can choose one or two options, but you might notice that this may change the guided process flow bar above, which I'll explain in a few moments. So if I select printer purchase, that's what my customer is after, and you'll notice that there's some basic sort of company information that I've pre-populated down here. So in terms of the company information that I would enter in here, once I've then populated this out, this would actually show this on the map view, which is using Bing Maps. So before I talk any more about sort of the guided process flow bar, you notice in the middle of the page there is what we call the timeline. So a timeline is where we will centralize all of our interactions with a customer, be that phone calls, emails, calendar appointments, anything like that will come into the timeline. And obviously this is audited, so you can see, in chronological order, what activities and interactions you've had with the customer. So in here, you notice we've got the little attachment button, so we can upload files in here. We can filter this, so if we want to look for a specific type of record, we can use the filter pane, which is essentially just using advanced find in order to find sort of specific things. So if I want to filter, I might want to just look at posts. So these are automatic posts. When you say create an opportunity, you convert a lead, etc. That will be an automatic post. But any sort of emails we've tracked against this, we will be able to filter by, same as activities, tasks, etc. So we'll build up a real sort of view of the customer, and any documents we attach, etc. again will appear in here and be audited. So you'll notice on the right hand side of the page, I have what we call a relationship assistant. So I want to talk a little bit about the relationship assistant. Essentially, this is part of the new sort of embedded intelligence of Microsoft Dynamics. So if you notice up here where I hover over it, says relationship assistant, there's a little light bulb up the top. Now this is designed to display toast notifications to assist your users with whatever they're doing in their business. So for the purpose of this demo, obviously we're talking about sales. So you'll notice how I have an opportunity closing soon here. The little toast notification is looking at activities, my opportunities, and it's saying that there's an opportunity that's going to be closing soon. We can also have things like appointments, etc., being synchronized from your Exchange, which would also come in here. So I would see what activities I've got to do. The point of this is to help your users, as I said, keep on top of their activities and make sure really they're sort of getting the most out of the system by automatically prompting them to do different tasks. So before I continue with the sales process, I'd like to sort of quickly flip now to the mobile application, just to show you sort of how these same forms are rendering, and just to show you a little bit more about the unified interface. So I'm just going to again drag my phone across, and you'll notice I'm on sort of the main dashboard that we started with, looking at sales and marketing data. So say I want to have a look at the lead I've just created, so I can search for Bob in here. Probably should have used the surname. And you'll notice it's filtered into categorized search, so you can see that there's a lead and there's Bob. So just in comparison to sort of the screen behind, you can see that the interface is fairly similar. You still get the guided process flow bar across the top, and you can still see all the main information. The only difference is the tabs are hidden under the ellipsis rather than showing the details unrelated. So the mobile application is a really nifty bit of kit for those guys on the road, because you can do everything that you can do using the hub in the web browser. So now I'm just going to continue with sort of where I left off and get rid of this. So now to continue with the lead, we need to ascertain whether the customer is interested and potentially capture some key bits of information in order to qualify. So we're using the guided process flow bar. We can create prompts to capture specific bits of information, as well as to use things like approvals processes, and potentially link this to different records, or send down a different sort of process based on the data that's inputted. So you'll notice I've got an existing contact and existing account form. If we knew that this was from an existing account, we could then link that in here, and same with an existing contacts. So I've selected my type of inquiry. You'll notice that across the top here, we have qualified budget inquiry, qualified opportunity. But if I select a different option, I get an extra stage. And this is using the guided process flows logic, where you can use branching logic to send people down different routes depending on which information they've entered. So now I've ascertained as to what type of inquiry it is, and we've qualified the budget. We're going to pass this along to the next stage. So the next stage in this instance, you can see it's an opportunity. So what this is going to go do, if I press the qualify button, this will now create an account which is based on the company down here, as there isn't one already in the system, and it will also create Bob here as a contact beneath that account and set up the relationship straight away. This will also create a opportunity entity record based on this, and we'll include sort of the topic and again link this to the account and contact. So I'm just going to qualify this through. And you'll notice again, I've set the opportunity form as fairly similar, but again, this can be defined with the bits of information you need to capture. So back to the guided process flow bar, you'll notice that under this section for define ink specification, I have a few sort of different options. So this is a simple checkbox, so I can say yes or no. Notice I have a nice little emoji in there. We can have emojis as part of the icon. So all the information I'm capturing with this is what is the color code that the person's after for their ink, and an estimated close date for the opportunity. So when are they looking to purchase? So now I've entered this information, it will allow me to advance to the next stage. So as long as I should click yes. So I've now advanced to the next stage, and again, there's some different bits of information that I'm required to capture. So purchase time frame, well, we believe it's going to be this quarter, and we've got to look up here for a contract management. So who's going to be the person in charge of this contract? So this is based on a user. So in this case, I'm going to use Andrew because he's going to be their contract manager. And again, I can advance this stage along. So it's worth also noting that we have this little pin the stage flyout here. So essentially what this does is this pops out the information from the guided process flow bar and keeps this on the right so that we can navigate the form on the left. We can view related bits of information, so I can look at activities here, say, without having to go anywhere. This still stays here. We can still see the necessary bits of information that we need to capture. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of close this off. So the next stage, as you see in my process flow bar, is quotation. Now with quotations, we can actually access this straight from this entity. So you notice we've got the quotes here, and any quote we have relating to this opportunity will appear here. So I can add a new quote from here. And you'll notice now this is loaded. There's a few different things on the page. So we have a quote ID, which is a unique reference number pertaining to this specific quote. And we have a revision ID. So if we do revisions on the quotation, maybe we're adding discount or we're doing special promotion, we'll see a revision ID every time. So the name has been pulled across from the opportunity, and same as the potential customer on the right, which has also been pulled across from the opportunity. So we have the idea of different currencies. So we can define multiple currencies and multi-different price lists. So if you have a company that you're operating in potentially US dollars and pounds, we would just select the specific currency that is going to be applied to this quotation. We also have information on shipping. So if we have any shipping terms or freight terms, and we have billing addresses and also delivery addresses. Down here, we can also define if there's a freight amount and tax, and these are calculated fields. So we can define, say, VAT we know is 20%. It will automatically add 20% onto anything we add into the quotation here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new quote line. So we have the idea of entering either an existing product based on our price list, but we can also do write-in products as well. So for this, we're going to have some print services. Price per unit is going to be at 895 and quantity of 1. Now, if I'm just going to save this, this will create that quote line. And then I can quickly navigate back to the quote. And you'll notice now in products, we now have print services. So once we're happy with our quotation, we can then choose to activate this quotation. Notice I didn't pick a price list, so it won't let me do that until I select a price list. So just had to revise this. Now I can select my price list. So there we go. I'm going to use the UK price list. I'm going to go ahead and save the record. And now I can activate the quotation. So this is now locked and read only, as you notice here, whilst it's in that activated stage. But we can revise this, and this will change the revision ID, or we can create an order. So now if we navigate back to our opportunity, so we can go onto the opportunity here. Say we've now sent this quotation out to the customer. We can then choose to either close this as won or close this as lost. So we might close this as lost for a few reasons. We may close this as lost due to the fact that this has been cancelled, outsold, but we can define the reasons why we've lost this. It might just be that we've actually decided to send them a separate quotation, etc. And again, this has an associated close date, which will default to the current date, but we can also define this as another date if potentially you're putting through all your orders all on one day. So hopefully we're going to be closing this as one. So in this example, let's pretend that we've sent the customer the quotation, they're happy with that, and we're going to close this opportunity as one, and then we're going to send them an invoice. So I'm not going to close this as one here. What I'm going to do is actually go into the quotation again. Notice this is still in read only because this is active, and I can create an order based on this quote. So what this is going to go away and do, this is going to close this and create an order, but it's also going to close the opportunity associated with it. And then the calculation will be on the revenue. So whatever value is in here is what it's going to close the opportunities one as. So I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. And now this has created an order, and it's fixed the amount based on what we had on the previous screen. So from here, we can now create an invoice, and we can fulfill the order. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now. Now I'm just going to go ahead and quickly switch user, just so I can show you the final part of the demonstration. So now I'm back in. I just really want to show you some of the additional features of Microsoft Dynamics and how this integrates with the wider Office 365 stack. Specifically, I wanted to focus on the Power Platform. So the Power Platform allows us to create applications to extend our Dynamics instances and also other Office products to give us functionality that we really require to help speed things up. So this can link with things like Power BI and Microsoft Flow. But for this example, I wanted to show you a Power App that we've developed as a proof of concept internally. So let me just open up an opportunity and I'll show you what I mean. So if I open up an opportunity and I switch across to the product line items, if I define a price list here, my Power App's just loading beneath here. So this Power App is designed so that we can add multi-product lines quickly and simply onto this, so we can very quickly generate quotes. So If I want to select multiple items, I can quickly select. So I want some of these printers, some of these printers, and I can quickly add those products in. So when I create these, this is going to create these product lines on the quotation itself. So you notice now I've added these on. These have all been created, and it's totaled this up for me. Now you can see that I can override the price. I can add existing products. I can define which quantity and how much tax for each one, and I can add manual discount amounts. And you notice it's got the running total as I mentioned there. So that's a very quick overview of a very simple Power App, but the functionality is almost endless. So please feel free to speak to us after this session, and we can work with you to define Power applications that can extend your Dynamics 365 platform. That's it from me. Now I'm going to pass you back over to Warren.
Many thanks, Simon. To close out the presentation, we'll end by touching on how Dynamics 365 connects with LinkedIn Sales Navigator to help sales professionals build relationships and increase their personal network. As this example shows, within the Dynamics interface, users can service a LinkedIn profile which is matched to a contact record. Within this Dynamics view, users can see at a glance an individual's role, make a connection request, or send them a message. Useful background information is also available, including details of their recent LinkedIn activity to understand what topics interest them based on the articles they've posted or shared. The best path to engage a potential customer could be to use mutual connections, and through this display we can see which of our existing connections might be able to make an introduction for us. Switching to an account record, LinkedIn matches company listings which include a summary of its recent posts. This avoids time being wasted in jumping back and forth between CRM and LinkedIn, and it also means that sales users can use this to find other related contacts and discover influencers, decision makers, and members of a purchasing committee for deals that they're currently working on. And all of this is able to be carried out directly within the Dynamics interface. That concludes our presentation. We do hope you found that useful, and it's given you a useful glimpse into the sales capabilities of Dynamics 365 to understand how this technology would help you transform your processes to increase engagement and discover new insights about sales performance and customers. If you want to know more about any of the functions that we've covered in the presentation, please do get in touch and we'll be very happy to follow up. So on behalf of Simon and myself, many thanks for your time today, and we do hope you found this session beneficial.